Well, welcome back, my friends, to the Mail Right Real Estate Agent Podcast Show. We're on episode 101, and my co-host Jonathan Denwood and myself, Thomas J. Nelson, are pleased to have our guest today, Mr. Peter R. Lorimer of PLG Estates up in LA, also famously in Beverly Hills. Peter, would you tell our listeners a little about yourself before we dive into the questions?
Sure, yes. So I am a fellow Englishman, and we're a company that's about 7 years old now. Our original office was in Beverly Hills. Now we got one east side, which services kind of like East Hollywood for those of people who are outside of LA, and then we've got one in the Valley in Studio City. And our company was kind of born out of a frustration with very kind of corporate feeling companies. And so we set up a very kind of edgy, cool, hip, creatively minded company back in 2010.
All right. And before we dive in, I'm going to have my co-host introduce himself. Jonathan, take it away.
Hi there, folks. Here's the hip Jonathan Jenwood here. I'm the founder of Mail Right, and we help you with Facebook leads and other online marketing tasks.
And I'm Thomas J. Nelson. I'm a residential realtor here in San Diego, California, just a little south of Peter. And I'm available on my website at thomasjnelsonrealtor.com. All right. Well, once again, Peter, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
I want to dive into your history a little before we get into my actual questions now, because as a former disc jockey myself, you intrigued me as a guest because you are famously a record producer. Could you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you get into producing records, and what did that entail?
So yeah, it kind of all began. I was a musician at school. Right. I played the trombone of all instruments, and I was really good at it. And I got sent as an exceptional student to the Royal College of Music at a young age, like 13, 14 years old. And then I toured with orchestras, and then around 1985, I heard, maybe 84, I heard a record by Steve Silk Hurley called Jack Your Body, and it was a house record, house music. And from that moment, I'm like, screw the trombone, I want to go make records like that. So I dropped out of high school and went off to London to seek my fortune as a record producer. And within a couple of years had managed to worm my way into the music business. And I was in the right place at the right time, and I started having hits. I was in the birth of the electronic music scene in London.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did you work with any bands that we would know from pop music?
Yeah, I worked with people, including, I worked with INXS, I worked with George Michael, I worked with Christina Aguilera, I worked with a million, Level 42, wow, and Seal, and so on and so on and so on. A lot of really big artists.
Yeah, that's an A-list. Gosh. So, and for those of us outside of the industry, what exactly is your role as a producer? What do you do for the artist?
Okay, so the job of a record producer is very, very much the same as the job, I guess, of a director of a film. What a record producer has is total creative control of the project from beginning to end. And very often, which was the case with me, I used to write the stuff with the bands, and I used to write the stuff with the artists, and I used to play everything too. It was all through computers, but I used to play the piano and program everything as well. I'm a bit of a control freak that way, I suppose.
So now, how does that work? And I promise we'll get to real estate in a minute, but
that's okay.
There's a tie in here to what you used to do and what you do now. And when you're working with somebody like an artist that's already got their concept of the music they're bringing in, how is it that you are able to convince them that we're going to do it this way, not the way you've brought it in?
That's a really good question, and it's a push and pull, and compromises are made, And I guess I learned my chops of being a good salesman in the music business, making people feel comfortable. And really, it's the same thing as real estate, not to sound schmaltzy, but always striving to get the best results out of the artist, therefore the best record possible, was something that I learned to do. And I saw lots of great artists and producers kind of kill their careers early on by just digging their heels in too much. It's a compromise, it's a creative process, and everybody has to have a voice.
Well,
so I learned that.
And I agree with you. And that was kind of the leap I was making here, because as agents, we very often walk into, say, a seller's home who has preconceived notions of how it's going to go. And that may be contrary to what's in the best interest of the sale of the property. And we have to kind of be the producer of that listing.
Correct.
So you have a great background that brings you to real estate, but how do you leave the industry of producing music with all these A-list artists and decide to become a realtor? I mean, where does that enter your life?
So I've always been very techie. I follow a lot of tech. I still read a lot of blogs, and I mean, it's just something I've always loved. And I made my first record. I got my first credit on a Bronski Beat record in 1988, I think it was, maybe 1989. And I stayed in the music business all the way through to about 2003, and maybe even a little earlier. But one of the things I spotted early on was MP3s.
Right.
And I was convinced that MP3s were going to forever dismantle the music business as we knew it. I've been in it a long time. Dance music is a very exhausting field of music to be in, because you do the records, but then you also have to go to nightclubs, and I had to DJ, and I was lucky. I traveled the world doing this, but after about 10, 15 years, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be behind turntables when I'm 40 in a club at 3 in the morning. So I started, my road to real estate really started with investment. I seemed to have a nose to be able to pick areas that in Los Angeles that were going to pop. And I invested in property in those areas, and then it did pop. And what I found was my tribe of creatives and musicians were, almost no offense to you, allergic to working with guys with shirts and ties and jackets.
Sure.
Right? And so I had all these music business people saying to me, hey, dude, can you help us? Where should we buy? What should we do? So I started giving out advice. And then one thing led to another. I got my license. And then everything mushroomed into what it is today.
So, and then I was reading your bio, and it looks like about 2005 is when, were you officially a realtor by 2005?
I think so, yeah.
And that was with Keller Williams.
That was with Keller Williams.
And so your original database was a lot of musicians or people in the industry. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Well,
yeah.
And it makes sense because, I mean, you and I on, mine was on a more local level. I was a professional DJ for 28 years, and I left the industry for the same reason. Gray in the hair works great as a realtor, not so much as a DJ.
Right.
But it was a lot of my first clients were the brides and grooms of the weddings I was DJing.
Right.
And so that's what gave me my base when I first got started. But it grows beyond that. Obviously for you, it has, because I'm looking at the array of properties you sell, and you've got everything from, for LA would be a starter home all the way up to multi-million-dollar homes. So now how do you branch out? How does your clientele grow beyond the industry?
That's a really good question. So when I was a new agent, the kind of the story behind this is my wife, within 6 months of me becoming a real estate agent, she quit her job and came to work with me. And She is more than 50% of the team.
Okay.
She's a powerhouse, and I absolutely would not have been able to do this without her. So what happened was we had a policy of, and it's just the way, Cindy, my wife is Vietnamese. She came here to escape the war, and we both have a similar work ethic. We're both not afraid of work. And so I originally started with my music business connections, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't like I called up all these A-listers and said, hey, remember me? I did a remix for you. I'd like to sell your house. I mean, to be honest, I don't really remember which ones out of the industry worked with me initially, but I was just relentless. And I forged a good name as a record producer, which surprisingly to me, stood me in good stead as a real estate agent. I didn't think there would be any correlation at all.
I can appreciate that. I mean, again, you know, I had similar experience. You know, it was kind of like you almost didn't want to tell people you were selling real estate because they're like, wait a minute, you did my wedding in my world. Now you want to sell me a house? But I would spin it just like you said it. It's like, well, you know, would you have me do another wedding for you if you know, if you could do it over again, would you do another wedding with me? Of course I would. Well, that same care and expertise that I put into that, I do the same for real estate. And that's what you sell people on, is it's the work ethic is what translates.
I guess, and I was really, really surprised by that. And what I did was, because I was kind of prospecting really at the birth of social media, and really people were emailing, but not as much as they are today.
Right.
So I just hammered everybody I knew, and I asked them for business. And I was relentless. I had embarrassing moments where I would call up record executives, and I'd be like, oh, hey, P, what's up, mate? What record are you working on? What project are you doing? And I'd be like, well, actually, you know, I've had a change of career, and now I'm selling real estate. And I'd get that, oh, that's great, dude. That's great. All right, well, be in touch, yeah? And I would call them back in 3 months, and then I would call them back in another 3 months and another 3 months until they just realized that I was going to be relentless.
Yeah, and that you're serious about it. I'm sure some people thought, oh, this is just a passing fancy and on to the next thing, but here you are. So, you know, and I'll tell you, I love that you use the word relentless, because that is a word I hear top producers and successful people use over and over. They just, you know, they don't give up on their craft or their goals.
Right.
But Thomas, I think it's time we went for our break, folks.
Okay.
And I'm such a beast, and I interrupt Thomas just before he was going to say something really fantastic. But there we go. We're going for our break, folks, and we'll be back to learn more about Peter and his music and the change there is. Folks. We're coming back, folks. We're rocking in this episode. It's rock and roll and real estate and everything that goes with it. Back to you, Thomas.
All right. Well, speaking of real estate, I'm going to dive more into some real estate questions for you, because what I do notice, Peter, is that you have a lot of luxury homes in your on your website as sold and currently on the market. So how would somebody without those kind of connections, and you were very authentic with, you know, it wasn't just automatic for you either, but you did have a nice shoe in to the luxury market. But how would somebody without that kind of connection make their way into the luxury market and have a go at it successfully?
So if I was a new agent doing this over again, and my focus was luxury, number one, I advise, and this is just my opinion, all agents out there who are watching this, who feel like they want to sell luxury, sell anything.
Right.
Just make sure, don't turn people down. Some of my biggest deals came from some of my smallest leads.
Yeah.
And some of the people I thought were a dead cert that were going to sell with me that were luxury didn't. So what I would do if I was a new agent trying to get into luxury is I would relentlessly, there's that word again, I would relentlessly call all the luxury brokers in the city, regardless of what company I'm at.
Okay.
I would make myself known to them. I would take them out for lunch. I would meet them for coffee. And I would ask them if I could sit their open houses.
Okay. No, well, now you bring up a good point that I actually wanted to ask you about. In the luxury market, do you actually do open houses or do you just do private showings?
We do open houses because and I have this conversation with sellers a lot. They're like, well, aren't you just going to show it privately? Well, back in the day, yeah, we used to show it privately, but now the game has changed that even people who are spending 3 to 10 million will be looking at Redfin as they go around open houses.
Yep.
And then calling up their agent on the Monday saying, I saw this, this, and this. Can you get more information?
Okay. So now what do you do differently since I see that you sell all types of property. So is there a difference in your $4 million listing to your $400,000 listing open house?
Surprisingly, they are very, very similar. What will happen with a luxury property is it will be promoted to a slightly different crowd, and I use custom audiences in Facebook, and I have a phenomenally powerful entertainment-derived database. So I'm not really going to be sending a $400,000 home to Beyonce's business manager because he probably doesn't have someone for it. But I am going to be sending anything 2 million and above to a very exclusive LA crowd. Now, the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, how many sales occur in the luxury market that are off market for a home that's done and not a build site? Not that many. I mean, people still go live and the homes still get sold through the MLS.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. So let me ask you this, and this is for any type of home, but just your take on it as a successful agent. Do you find your commission coming under fire?
Yeah, I do. You know, I do, and I think we all do. And some of these massive, massive homes, I know that the commission gets allegedly reduced to like 1%. But, you know, if it's a $100 million home, who cares?
Okay. So so it sounds like your attitude's more like it's about the numbers rather than what you make per deal. Is that what I'm getting from you?
Well, interesting. No, my policy with commission is this. Naturally, I always want to try and get at least 2.5%.
Right.
But my policy is I never focus on the money, and I focus on the person, and I focus on the service. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to be a doormat. If somebody wants to just grind me down, I'm not just going to take it. And I've walked away from many, many listings. And out of 100 listings, I would say 95 of them are 2.5 and above.
Okay.
But occasionally, if there are mitigating circumstances, I may be open to discussing commission changes, but they tend to be much more expensive properties.
Actually, Peter, can I come and work for you, actually? I know it's going to be a load of hard work, but I think it's going to be fun, actually, isn't it?
Our place, yeah.
Well, you got to make this career fun, Jonathan, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that try to steal your joy every day.
Yeah.
You got to have fun with it.
I can see we've got the same attitude to some degree.
I think so. I mean, life's too short, you know? Life is just too short.
You know, Peter, this might sound like a trivial question, but I mean, relationships are important to me. And one of the things I like to do when I close an escrow is give my clients a closing gift. And I'm wondering, is that something you do? And if it is, again, same like the open house question, is there a difference?
Shut the door. Hang on.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if there's a difference in what you gift, you know, let's say a $500,000 home versus a $5 million home owner, or what do you give luxury home people as a closing gift?
Therapy sessions. You know, it varies. It depends because If it's a celebrity client, you know, am I going to send them a gift card to frickin' the Grove or something? They're never going to use it, you know? Would I take somebody for dinner? Yes, I would. It all depends on the client. So let's just say it's someone who is a doctor, right? Let's say it's a doctor that's buying a $5 million house and not a celebrity. I would take him out for a phenomenally expensive and delicious dinner. And then I would probably send the doctor and his wife to the spa for the day, something like that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, my other question I had for you is because because of the size of your business, how do you what's a day in the life of you look like? How do you structure your day to get the most out of it?
Well, every day is different.
Okay.
But there are some structures that I use to get through the day. So it's important for me to try and work out every morning.
Okay.
I try. I don't succeed, but I try and do it at least 5 days a week. And I actually work out for my head rather than my body because it just puts me in a really, really great frame of mind.
What does that entail?
Well, I get up at 4:45 and I'm in the gym by 5:30. And then I'm out of the gym by about 6:50 and I have a breakfast meeting at about 7.
Wow.
And I will work on a normal day, certainly from 8 to 8, I will work every day. And then all the videos that I do, I try not to let those intrude on normal hours.
Okay.
So I will work on those. I'll finish work at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, have dinner with the family, and then I'll begin editing till 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, the videos, what are the purpose of the videos, and why did you decide to start doing them, Pete?
So, great question. So when I was setting up PLG, we were a very distinct flavor. Well, we are a very distinct flavor. And it kind of dawned on me that I'm not going to try and do the same thing everybody else is doing. So I'll just fail. I mean, I can't do Coldwell Banker better than Coldwell Banker did. Well, that's debatable, but no offense to Coldwell Banker. Are you either of you Coldwell Banker?
I'm a former Coldwell Banker.
I'm recovering Coldwell Banker.
I'm not in real estate, thank God.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Okay.
Jonathan's crazy.
I'm going to LA tomorrow, actually, Sunday, so I want some fun. Right.
So I thought to myself, you know, social media was kind of coming out. As soon as I saw MySpace and then Facebook, I remember having that kind of burning bush experience of this is the new frontier. And I took it to my manager at Keller Williams, and bless her heart, she looked at me and she used the words, "It's just a fad, it's going to go away." And at that moment, I knew I was in the wrong place. No offense to Keller Williams. And I'm like, I got to set this up and do it my way. So when we were setting it up, I knew that I can't outspend Keller Williams. I can't outspend Coldwell Banker. Can't outspend Century 21. But I can do something different that's going to get noticed.
Yep.
That nobody else is doing. And so it took a while to kind of get my wings because I was trying to figure out the direction. And then I figured out the direction with the sole purpose of bringing brand awareness to the company, with the hopes that the byproduct would be that like-minded creative real estate agents would want to join a firm like mine. Gotcha. And it has worked out exactly, if not better than I thought.
So yeah, it's a pretty robust video channel or YouTube channel. And I was curious too, if, because you bring up social media a lot, how are you using Facebook Live as an extension of that?
So we use Facebook Live quite a lot. I do a Monday mantra on a Monday morning, live Facebook Live, 10 o'clock. And then this afternoon, I'm going to do lattes with Lorimer at 3 o'clock, where I interview one of the agents at the office.
Nice.
And then we have a whole gang load of other stuff that happens during the week. And then I try and do a backstage pass every week. And I try and do a Life and Times. I try every week, but I'm failing at that one. And I think we're going to start a new live stream theme at some point during the week. I'm going to be talking about tech. You know, it'll be like tech for 10 minutes.
Sure.
Of what's come out this week.
So, you know, it's a pretty good investment of time. I know I do a lot of video too. And there are days where, you know I'm sitting there doing a video thinking, is this really the best use of my time? But, you know, but then when you get a result from it, you realize, and if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have gotten that connection. So what kind of results are you getting? And do you notice a difference in results between YouTube and Facebook Live?
Very interesting question. So yeah, initially we were very much, we had an inbuilt audience with Facebook, and we were getting lots and lots of views from kind of the local area. And YouTube was actually kind of very slow to pick up. But now what I'm finding is YouTube is beginning to take over Facebook. And so we will be getting, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 15,000 views on a video on Facebook, which is uploaded natively, and then we'll get, you know, the same on YouTube. But YouTube was a slow burn, but I can feel that it's going to be a bigger burn.
So if you could only use one format, would YouTube be your choice over Facebook Live?
As a business owner or as a real estate agent?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, let's go with as a real estate agent.
As a real estate agent, I think Facebook, by design, is targeted at a more local audience.
Okay.
So I think for realtors, Facebook is still the monster, is still the elephant in the room.
Okay. Now, but you mentioned as a business owner, it sounds like YouTube might be your choice.
If I was like, you know, the new Coldwell banker going national, I would be hammering YouTube no end, putting up 3 to 5 videos a day.
And what's the secret, according to Peter, on getting that viewership up on YouTube? What when you post a video, what are you doing to get it the most opportunity for views?
It's a really interesting question. So the title is obviously very, very important. Putting the tags in is very important. Certain keywords in the copy, but all of that stuff is very much secondary to trying to create content that's really enjoyable and watchable.
Okay. So ultimately, it still comes down to having good content. You can't just post to post and keyword it up.
Content is king.
Okay. Which is true on websites and blogs as well. I mean, that doesn't go away. No matter how much technology changes, that seems to be the number one rule.
Right. And I think it always will be, and people try and game the system. I mean, we all remember those times, probably, 10 years ago, where you could, if you had your website and it was essentially had a white background, you could put all the white keywords beneath it.
Right.
So nobody could see it, and then the Google web crawlers would find them.
Yeah, I remember.
Now that's done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where
I'm going. Game it.
That's where I'm going wrong, Peter. I'm still doing it.
Well, hey, I wanted to ask you another question regarding your business. How are you driving in traffic to yourself and your agents? What is the source? Are you buying leads or are you self-generating? Is it repeat business? What would you say your number one pipeline is?
So as far as I have always shied away from Zillow and creatures such as, because I find that they just hand trash bags full of crap to you. And it takes so many man hours to sift through those bags of crap to find someone that's even barely a lead. Whereas if I took that time and prospected people I know, kind of know, might know, could know, I feel like the pipeline will always remain full. So I don't give my agents any leads. We're very traditional in that sense, that I show the agents how to harness social media and other digital strategies so that they can be in the face of their sphere more and translate that into deals.
Okay, so it's more about using the technology that's available to you through social media than it would be for the what these days would be considered traditional lead sources like Zillow.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I'm a very big proponent of, and on the walls of the PLG offices one day I promised to paint, when in letters 10 feet tall, when you run out of people look for strangers.
Yeah. Well, that's another question I have for you is, do you do any form of networking? Do you go out to events and mixers?
Yeah, very interesting. I have not really done that. My children now are 9, 6, and 4. So they've been little. So over the past, 9 years, I haven't wanted to abandon my wife and leave her at home with the kids. So no, not really. Not really. I don't. I always find networking events to be, I don't know, I feel like a piece of chum and there's a bunch of sharks circling around me.
Yeah,
So,
they can be kind of superficial.
Yeah, I did one networking event at JP Morgan here in Beverly Hills in the morning. It was a breakfast once a month and nothing came of it. I find when I network or when I hang out with my tribe, which is the creative industries of LA, whether it be music, film, Silicon Beach, that organically I run into people that want to buy and sell.
Okay, love it. Now, you mentioned you're a family man, and by the way, happy belated Father's Day from one dad to another. How do you keep those boundaries so that your marriage and your kids' relationships with you stay intact? Because you sound like you're a very busy guy. You've got a big team. How do you take your downtime?
So Cindy and I have made a policy of sculpting our day around the fact that every night we have dinner with the kids.
Okay.
If that means that we have to work afterwards, we'll work afterwards, which we pretty much do every night. And what we decided to do, well, actually, the credit goes to Cindy on this one. We said she's an incredibly intelligent, articulate, and beautiful and talented woman. And so what we elected to do was, look, you can stay home and raise the children, but I can't repeat you. Whereas I can repeat someone that can help with the kids, that can cook and clean. And so we hired someone to kind of do the domestic stuff at home, who has become kind of part of the family, and she is incredibly dear to us. But what that does is it frees us up to focus our time on work. Gotcha. And then we come home, dinner's ready, we have dinner with the kids, and then, the kids go off and play with their iPads now, and then we carry on working, and then we all,
I think, Thomas, we're going to end the podcast part of the show, folks. We're going to continue on the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see that on the website and on the YouTube channel, folks. I'm trying to cut this down because I had feedback from people that they listened to this when they're traveling from one gig to the other, and they said they like it a little bit shorter. So we're going to shorten a little bit, but we're going to continue, like I say, on the video. So, Thomas, can you take over and ask Peter to
sure.
how people can...
Yeah. So, Peter, hang in there with us. But for the sake of our listeners on iTunes, will you let them know how to reach you if they want to reach out to you?
So, if people want to find me, you can find me in 2 places. All my accounts are, at Peter Lorimer, which is PeterLorimer, at Peter Lorimer on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. But easier still is at PLG Estates.
Right.
At PLG Estates. Anybody can reach me there, and I would love to get feedback, any questions or thoughts. I welcome them all.
Awesome. And definitely check out Peter's YouTube channel. It's pretty entertaining. All right. And Jonathan, how can people reach you?
It's quite easy, folks. You can get me on my Twitter feed at Jonathan Denwood. tech and real estate mixed up in a mixture. Or you can email me at jonathan@mel-wright.com.
All right. And for me, it's at thomasjnelson.realtor.com. And again, in San Diego, California, where I'm never too busy for your referrals. We're going to end the podcast portion, but if you want to continue with us, folks, just join us on the YouTube video, and we'll continue there.
See you next week, folks. Bye.
Bye, mate.
So, Peter, to continue the discussion, I've got a two-part question. If you've got a new agent joining you, basically, who are you looking for? What are some of the key things you're looking for from a new agent joining the team? And B, what's the initial advice and the initial onboarding training that you give to that agent?
So, as a company, we generally don't hire brand new agents. We hire agents that have been in the business for a year or two, so they kind of, they've got the rough edges knocked off them. And what I look for in an agent is very much what I used to look for when I did records, when I worked with bands. I look for talent, and for me, talent isn't based on numbers. So I don't really look at production. When I meet someone, I know instantly whether or not they're going to be a good agent. Case in point is I had this lovely kid musician from Nashville. He was a new agent, walked in with a guitar on his back and a lovely Southern accent. And I knew before he even sat down that he was going to be a great agent. I just knew it. And he's been doing it 18 months and he's probably sold close to 20 million already.
Wow.
And then another case, one of my early agents, Noah, he was actually selling lingerie, women's lingerie. And he came and sat down before he even had his license and met me. And I had the same feeling about him. And boom, he also is popping deals all the time. So I don't know, it's just a knack that I've got. I used to have the same skill set when I met artists. I knew within 2 notes of them singing or playing if they were going to be any good.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that question because let's say somebody walks into your office that meets your criteria and you hire them. What's their week 1 look like? What's your expectation of them, and how do you set them up for success as you see it?
So in the first week, what I will do is with an agent, I'll sit down with them and we'll what I like to do is a deep dive into their digital footprint.
Yeah.
So I like to see who they are, what they're about, what are they portraying out to the world about how successful or not successful they are. Is there too much personal? Is there too much professional? And then I will make suggestions as to what can be improved. One of the things I have a policy of is there are no boundaries. So an agent can be as wild and crazy as they want, as long as it's authentic and genuine, and they're not just doing it for gimmicks.
Okay.
And a lot of agents find that very freeing. Well, you mean I can go and report that I'm at a concert watching a band? And I'm like, yeah, if that's how you feel, do it. And so week 1 is let's figure out who you were and who you're going to be. And then at PLG, we have constant training as well. Every week we'll have classes or a class.
So if this agent that you just hired says to you, hey, look, I'm on a limited budget right now until I get going, what do you have them focus spending their money on in the beginning?
Well, I don't think you need to spend any money in the beginning. I think what you need to focus on is reaching out. And everybody pretty much in the world, I would say 80% of people in California have an iPhone, maybe 90%. And so I recommend that people start outreaching, using techniques that are not just cold emails and cold texts. Calling, nobody picks up the phone.
Right.
So what I would have the new guys do, or anyone for that matter, is do a little video SMS, do a little video text.
Yep.
Hey Thomas, how you doing, mate? Haven't spoke to you in a million years. Hope you and the family are great. Love to connect. let me know your thoughts if you've got time next week to have a cup of Java. And then hit send.
Yeah.
Personalized one-on-one messages, I think, are imperatively important, whether it be direct message, through Twitter, through Facebook, through email, phone calls, just one-on-one. Mass marketing, there is a place for, but it can never replace the one-on-one.
Mm. That's a refreshing comment from someone that's very tech savvy, yet you still put value on the human interaction, the relationship.
Without doubt.
It's not that surprising really, Peter, because, it's a person-to-person business. If it wasn't for that, it would have been commoditized and disappeared already, wouldn't it?
Correct. I mean, we are peddlers of trust, compassion, hope, education, which can't be replicated by a robot. It just can't be. I mean, we are much more like the local doctor or the local attorney or the family attorney or the family doctor than we are an Uber driver.
Yeah. Now that we have a saying, there's no app for what we do. There's a lot of apps that can do part of the functionality of real estate, but ultimately what we do as agents one-on-one with our clients, there's no replacement for it.
No, I agree. Absolutely agree.
So you like, sorry, Thomas, you like the tech side of things. Are there anything in the tech side that you see coming on in the next 6 to 12 months that's going to change real estate a bit?
Well, let me think. I mean, I think bots are gonna help. I think I was speaking to a guy yesterday at a company called Structurally, where they have bots that you can insert into, your text messages, and I think there are going to be. Unfortunately, the world has shifted thanks to Twitter. That we are in. I can never remember if it's 140 or 160 characters.
It's 140.
100. So we have 140 character mentality, which means back in the day when I started, somebody could call me and I could call them back the next day and it would be fine.
Right.
Now, if they email me, I need to get back to them within 10 minutes, or they might be bouncing around looking at other people.
Yep.
So I think having bot technology that is very clever and sculpted to who you are, that says, Peter is unavailable right now, how can I help you? Let me take down some details. What kind of property are you looking for? I think that stuff is going to be helpful. Is it going to change anything? No. Here's where I think the fundamental shift is going to occur. For me, and you're going to get me on my soapbox now, there is a fundamental digital carrot that I think is distracting real estate agents and distracting all industries. And that digital carrot is the shiny new object syndrome of all these various softwares and tech and this and that and the other. And I think a lot of people are losing sight of the fact that it's still in the personal touch. That these apps and gadgets and what have yous allow us to be in the lives of our potential client base, but it can't just be posting things endlessly on Instagram. We still need to reach out, check in, see how people are doing on a one-on-one basis. And that will never change 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, I don't think.
Mm. I'm curious. I'm going to go back to something you were talking about earlier. When you have a new agent on and you're seeing who they are digitally, it brought up a question in my mind about their brand, because obviously they work for you, but each agent brands themselves. Do you help people create a brand? And I'm thinking with your background in producing, you are helping bands create a brand too. So what is your way of helping agents find their brand, of identifying who they are?
So if an agent wants to brand themselves, I will brainstorm with them as to what I feel is the most effective brand. If an agent doesn't come with any idea of branding, I'm not going to force branding on them. They can use the company branding. But if somebody has an idea of I want to be known as this. I'll be like, well, that's great. Maybe we should add a little bit of this, maybe change the logo. Let's start doing some, live broadcasts from here and this and that. And that's the part I find actually most exciting.
So it's really about knowing what your niches are then, because then your brand has to lend itself to the niches that you want to serve.
Correct.
Okay.
And the way PLG is set up, and this is because I'm an old music guy, is we might be Universal Records, but every one of our agents is a subsidiary label, and I want them to have their own identity, and I will help them market themselves into their own brand. And PLG really is just kind of like Papa Bear that's there if you need us. But I'm not like, you need to use our colors, you need to use our this, you need to use our that. As long as we're compliant, that's all I ask for. That's a
quite refreshing, very differential attitude, really, that you find from a lot of other brokerages, isn't it, Peter?
Maybe I've always been a bit like that. I've always been kind of a bit of the odd man out, and I like to run PLG the way that I would like to work at a firm. And so I've just created that, and we're growing. We're just growing and growing.
Well, I think it's a great attitude, because I think it's really accepts the realities of the situation, between the brokerage and agents. It's really it's accepting the reality of the relationship and being fair, really. Where other brokerages, there are other business models that you can utilise which don't totally appeal to me personally. So I think you're totally on the right model there. So basically, it's having an agent having a brand that fits the core sense of the agent, and then it's using social media to broadcast that the agent is available to assist people. And then is there an element of understanding how important database is and keeping in touch with all these different people? Is there an element of awareness that you have to build up there as well?
Yes, for me, it's all database. Even if you are a new agent moving here from a different city, it's all database. And if I was a new agent moving to LA from Boise, wanting to get into the real estate game, I would sit every single open house I possibly could. I would friend everybody I met on Facebook, and I would friend their friends. And before long, my tree of prospects would grow, and then I would dive into reaching out to all of those people who are in my social media accounts. And if they knock me back, they knock me back. I would just keep saying, hi, how are you? Hope all is well, love to help you, da 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 da. You say it enough times, you're going to pick up business.
I kind of, when I have agents come to me and ask for advice, I say to them, open houses, open houses, open houses. And they look at me and I say, the open house is not about selling. The open house is building relations and building your database.
100%.
And you've got to have effective methodologies to get people's. What do you say to agents when you get that kind of eye opening when you push the open houses to them, and how should they run the open houses so to get as many people in the database as possible?
Well, I think that when it comes to open houses, I always recommend that people are authentic and genuine, and don't just be like Sharky and trying to sell their house. And look at each person as a person and as a long-term relationship, not a one-hit wonder. Whenever people look at clients as a walking check, I think that is the beginning of the end.
So when you host an open house, and are you personally hosting them, or is it your team doing it for you?
Well, I don't really have a team. I just have my missus,
Right. So do the two of you do them together?
No. As a policy, I felt it was fair to offer open houses to the agents that work at PLG. And many of them have picked up buyers and closed deals at my listings where I've represented the seller. they've represented the buyer. And, you know, my feeling is there's enough for everyone. I don't need to be greedy. And what I make in a year, I look at as a salary, and I don't look at it as individual commissions.
Gotcha. You know, something I forgot to ask you earlier that I'm curious about, because I attempted this myself, working with a spouse. What's your secret? How do you work with your wife so well in this industry? Because it's a tough industry, and I know my wife tried to work with me for a while, and it was during the last recession, so she didn't really enjoy talking to realtors because none of them seemed to be in a good mood. But
the easiest way working with your spouse is I like to drink heavily and smoke heroin.
I think after that remark, obviously Peter has been very gracious with his time.
Yes,
and I think he's got to go.
I'm just kidding, everybody. I'm just kidding. I don't even drink.
Yeah. Don't cut him off on that note, Jonathan. We've had this brilliant interview, and now he's giving out heroin.
No. I'm just kidding. Actually, let me give you the answer. The answer is this. The way that I work with my missus is pick your battles, right? I don't need to be right. If she feels strongly about something, I'm not going to go up against her. And we worked really closely where I was the dog and pony with the clients, and she was the kind of follow-up and administration.
Gotcha.
And so our paths crossed, but now our paths, I'm running the company and she's doing the clients. So we kind of live separate lives now. We talk all the time, every day, but it isn't like we're in each other's pockets.
Right. All right.
Well, just to finish, Pete, I think what you're saying is you come across as a reasonably easygoing, logical person, but you're not prepared to have an argument with a person all the time. But when you say no and you really put your foot down, they would be well advised to listen.
That foot very rarely goes down with my wife.
I was going to say,
that's what I mean.
Jonathan, have you ever been married? Do you understand?
Yeah.
But that's what I meant.
Advice of a single man.
I meant that in your general relationships, Peter.
But here's the thing. I'm smart enough to realize that she is actually right most of the time.
Yeah.
That's very wise, Peter. Well, I think we're finished. It's been an excellent interview. Peter's been a great. You must come back sometime, hopefully.
Love it.
It's been enjoyable enough for you to consider that. And I'll be watching some of your Facebook Live stuff in the coming weeks. Actually, I'm going to be joining that. That should be hilarious, shouldn't it?
Cool. Well, good. Well, thank you for having me on, guys. It's a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, why don't you let people know on our video just one more time how to reach you?
Yeah.
Okay, at PLG Estates. That's P as in Peter, L as in Lorimer, G as in group. Estates, at PLG Estates. Anyway, you'll find us.
All right. That's great. See you later, folks.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks again,
Bye,
Peter.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And I think...